Hey guys, so I got a lot of views on that ShortFatOtaku video. I find that absolutely hilarious. So it turns out some of my best videos are me coming out against like different like public figures and kind of giving a dressing down to them and like basically talking about what issues they've been having and how they had like big downfalls. Yeah, I'm not really sure if that's what I want my niche to be on YouTube, is basically just getting involved in YouTube drama, but it's what gets the most views. So I'm kind of torn on this. So there are 3 people that I've like talked about, and 2 of them I got a lot of views on, and that's IDubbbz and ShortFatOtaku, also known as Dev. And I've also talked about pirate software. Now, IDubbbz's fall is kind of hard to document because if you go on different websites that track like YouTube subscriptions, his max is not actually listed on there. So it's kind of hard to tell where he was at. But based on the numbers that I'm seeing, he at least had 7.67 million subscribers. And I feel that he had at least 8 million at one point. The number, whatever his peak was, is not listed out there from the short search that I did. And he's down to like 6.92 million. So he's down at least 750,000, and at most, as far as I'm aware, 1 million subscribers, which was an 1/8 of his subscriber count. A pirate software was at 2.6 million, and now he's down to 2 million. And ShortFatOtaku was at 160,000, and now he's down to 145,000. Now I got ShortFatOtaku's numbers wrong. For some reason I thought he had 200,000 and that he was down to 160,000. No, his peak was 160,000 and he's down to 145,000. So IDubbbz definitely the biggest one of those, and then we got pirate software, and then you got Dev. And for some reason my Dev video got the most views. Maybe it's just because most of my friends come from like Arch's community, and they're the ones who like really got my video going in the algorithm, and then everyone else jumped on. And I'm just in that kind of like circle of influencers. And it just reached out to everyone within the Sargon, Arch, and Dev circle, basically. Which would include like Romanian TV, and there would be a few others, but I'm not sure if it got into like the side scrollers and like their audiences. In the Yellow Flash audience, because they don't really talk about Dev at all. But yeah, Dev, 1.8 thousand views for that video, which is really good for me, especially since I still have under 100 subscribers. Literally over like 20 times my amount of subscribers watched that video, which is hilarious to me. I do have a problem talking about these people because, like, again, do I want to dedicate my YouTube channel to like not really so much as drama farming, but as like talking about the many issues that other YouTubers have? Because at some point, like, people are going to be making videos on me, and they're going to be like, oh, this guy's like, his analysis is not that good, or he's not as good as he used to be, and then people would be trying to drive a farm off of whatever downfall I have in the future. Yeah, I don't know. So I guess I should talk about what the issues with all three of these people are really quickly. So, my problem with making my whole thing about drama videos and talking about other YouTubers and influencers is that I view all these people as mentally ill. Like, they seem to have legitimate problems in the head. And I'm not like a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I'm not qualified to diagnose these people. But they definitely have some kind of social issue going on. And a lot of my friends have mental health issues. So it kind of feels like beating down on somebody who's already going through a tough time and just like piling on to the stress until like so many people pile on to these people that they just snap. And I don't really want that. But on the other hand, these people deserve to be criticized. And I'm not really qualified to talk on the kind of mental health issues that I think these people are suffering from. But, I mean, it's just a hard thing to discuss. It's better to, like, discuss what we know about the facts and talk about, like, why people dislike them. So, for IDubbbz, he's lost like at least an eighth of his subscribers. He seems to suffer from an inferiority complex. And this seems to go back to his days when he used to make good videos. Now, he used to make content cop videos where he would basically analyze other people's content and then point out the flaws in their styles, in their presentation, in the way they presented their information and how they talked about people. Nowadays, he sees that as bullying. But he was like pointing out the flaws in these people's content, and he was offering criticism on them, which is totally valid. And a lot of people agreed with his views, and they thought that like he was making like good points about like these people. Now, he said that like for some of them that he was going after them, and he feels like it wasn't fair because like, yes, they had issues, but they weren't malicious, and that he like brought on like a whole bunch of like hate onto these individuals that he doesn't feel like they deserved. But again, he was trying to criticize these people, point out like what he thought they were doing wrong, and like kind of giving them like advice. Now, I was never really a fan of IDubbbz. I like heard about him at some point. But he has like a huge inferiority complex. It feels, a lot of people joke that it seems like he's whipped by his wife. Like she tried to domesticate him, and it took away like his edginess. He's now like really safe. He doesn't do anything out of the ordinary. He doesn't take any risk. And that happens when somebody gets married. Like, for example, it is common knowledge within big business that if you want a CEO that takes risks, you hire a CEO who's not married and doesn't have kids. The reason is that these people aren't as worried about losing their jobs because they're going for big profits. They just want to be rich, they want to be famous, they want to like solidify their legacy because they don't have a familiar tie or a familiar legacy. So their legacy is how they run their business. Whereas a big business will hire a CEO that has a wife and kids if they want somebody who's more conservative and doesn't want to take risks. Because if the CEO becomes hated, if he loses his job, if he loses the company a lot of money, he financially hurts his family. He can get threats from people, like they can threaten his family. He doesn't want to put his family in danger. And so a CEO will tend to take less risks if they're married and if they have kids. So it makes sense that IDubbbz doesn't want a lot of controversy around him, because that would bring in a lot of stress, that would bring in a lot of like issues with his mental health, that could cause him to have fights with his wife, and that could cause him and his wife to like drift apart. So a lot of people make jokes about him being whipped by his wife, and it seems like that is the case, but also just him being married in general is going to domesticate his content a little bit. Now, my major problem with him is that he became a Hassan hanger-on, like a full-on communist sympathizer who brings on terrorists and interviews them on his channel while praising them to the high heavens. He became a Hassan fan. And then he threw his friends, his best friends, like Ethan Klein, is it Ethan Klein? I think it's Ethan Klein, under the bus. Which, loyalty is a huge thing in the military. It's a huge thing for being an American in general, because you're supposed to be loyal to your government. Now, granted, I criticize my government, but the reason why I'm loyal to the government is because it allows people to criticize it. And you can contact your representative and talk to like their staff and be like, hey, I don't like what this guy is doing. Can you tell the representative that he should reconsider his choices? And if enough people call, a representative will be like, okay, maybe I should listen to this, because they don't want to lose their job and they don't want to lose votes. So yeah, that's why I'm loyal to the United States in general. And as military personnel, I'm loyal to the Constitution. Again, nothing I ever say reflects on the beliefs of the DoD, the Department of the Navy, or the Marine Corps. These are all my personal opinions. But yeah, I don't like IDubbbz because he's very disloyal, and he supports a guy who is absolutely insane and supports both communism and terrorism. So, yeah, I don't really care as much that IDubbbz is playing it safer, because yes, when you get married, you get domesticated. That's just going to be a thing. And as you get older, you're going to become more conservative. You're going to take less risks. Now, not conservative in the political sense, but conservative in the way you act. You're not going to act out as much. But IDubbbz has gone crazy. Pirate Software, his problem is that he pretended to be this really empathetic guy who cared about his audience, who listened to people and tried his best to be like a good guy. And then Ross Scott, an internet legend, who doesn't have as many subscribers, mind you, but he's an internet legend. Like one of the core foundations of entertainment and influence on the internet. Like, I would say that Ross Scott influenced the internet more than Pirate Software ever could have hoped. And Pirate Software is a little bit of a nepo baby. He got his job at Blizzard because his uncle or whatever worked at Blizzard. And he always talks about how he's a former Blizzard employee, which that's not as a brag as it used to be back in the day. Well, Ross Scott did the Stop Killing Games campaign, and Pirate Software came out and completely mischaracterized what the campaign was about and what it was trying to accomplish. And everybody came out of the woodwork to tell him, hey, you're wrong about this. You should re-examine it. Everybody on the internet, most people on the internet, look at this campaign and see it as a good thing for video games. And he kept doubling down and tripling down and quadrupling down, saying how much he hates it and how bad an idea it is. Despite the fact that literally everyone was telling him, hey, you should look into this. This is actually a really good idea. And you're mischaracterizing this. when Ross Scott came out and he eventually had to confront those accusations from Pirate Software directly, and Pirate Software tripled down again on his views despite being completely debunked, and everyone realized that this guy is suffering from some kind of like narcissistic personality disorder or something, because he just thinks he's like the end all be it all for knowledge on the internet. It's insane. And then I already talked about Dev. I would say his Trump derangement syndrome, definitely. But he also is just a very closed-minded individual. He's not willing to reconsider his points. He thinks that he knows it all. And again, some kind of like narcissistic personality disorder on the part of Dev. Like, there's something wrong with all three of these people. Like, you don't IDubbbz stabbed his long-term friend in the back. Like, this dude, like, he invited him over to his house to have dinner with his wife and kids. I'm talking about Ethan. Like, had IDubbbz over to his house, and IDubbbz had Ethan over at his house. Like, these were very close people. They traveled across the country to collaborate with each other, and they were the best of friends. And IDubbbz stabbed him in the back for nothing. And his criticisms, you can criticize like Ethan for a lot of things. Again, I think it's Ethan Klein. Just whatever. It's the guy who's got like the he's got a mental disorder where he like twitches, and he's like Tourette's. He's got Tourette's. That's what it is. I think that's Ethan Klein. Again, it's not that important. He stabbed him in the back. IDubbbz stabbed him in the back for no gain, like to try to suck up with, again, a terrorist supporter, allegedly. Not even allegedly. He had a terrorist on his channel interviewing him and praising him, saying that he was like the modern day Luffy, and just completely insane. This is how insane Hassan Piker is. And then Pirate Software, again, he was trying to tear down the Stop Killing Games campaign, which, again, any gamer, any game influencer online, like, wholeheartedly supported it upon hearing what it was about. Whereas it seems like Pirate Software is supporting this, is supporting big business and the gaming industry, which again, everyone hates the gaming industry. The gaming industry right now has been absolute shit for years now. We get good games occasionally, but the industry itself, the main players, are some of the most corrupt and just absolutely horrible organizations in the world right now. EA Games, they're doing better, but they're still awful. And then Dev, again, totally disingenuous, lies all the time, misleading his audience, is too cowardly to debate anybody, has made promises to both his audience and his main opponents, and has not upheld them, and totally argues in bad faith. Just an all-around worthless individual to have any conversation with. And like I said, all three of these individuals are absolutely collapsing in their subscriber count significantly. Like, Dev has lost 10% of his subscribers. Pirate Software has lost over 20%. And again, I don't know what IDubbbz's maximum subscriber count was, since the records only go back to December 16th of 2022. Or, yeah, I think it's 2022. It might be 2023. But it seems like he went from at least 8 million down to less than 7 million. Slightly less than 7 million. So he's lost about 12 to like 15% of his subscriber count. Maybe it's like 16%. Something around that. It might be higher. For all I know, it could be 20% of his subscriber count at this point. Because I don't know what his max is. Just these individuals have made very poor choices when it comes to their channels. And it's absolutely just sad to see like the fall of these guys. And again, I think each and every one of them have some kind of mental health issue going on. Some kind of mental health crisis. And that has been like a big part of their downfall. Is that they have gotten into this mental headspace where they just think that, like, IDubbbz thinks that everything he did in the past was terrible. Despite everyone, like, so many people loving it. Like, he has absolutely spit on the audience that got him to where he is today. Pirate Software just showed his true colors, showing that, like, he was always a narcissist and, like, perhaps even a sociopath. He pretended to be this, like, super, like, friendly character, and, like, he tossed it all out the window when he decided to, like, oppose the Stop Killing Games campaign and double, triple, and quadruple down on his criticisms, despite him being debunked over and over again by a lot of different people, honestly. Whereas Dev, on the other hand, seems to have developed just some kind of like derangement syndrome. Like, again, I don't know how much I agree with Ace1918 on this, but I definitely have watched all his, like, most of his or all of his videos on ShortFatOtaku, and I would agree that he has gone further to the left, and, like, he refuses to reevaluate his points of view, and that he may even be audience captured, which means that, like, his audience believes a certain thing, and he doesn't want to disagree with them because he's afraid of losing more subscribers. But he's already losing subscribers. He's already lost 10% of his subscriber count. Like, what he is doing right now is making him less and less popular and more hated. And that's true for all three of these guys. Again, just absolutely sad to see. It's just kind of depressing, honestly. But again, I'm not entirely sure if I just want to be involved in, like, this kind of drama. Again, I don't really like confrontation, which is kind of funny for a guy who's in the Marine Corps. But, like, I see it as kind of pointless, especially if I'm just going to be like, yeah, this guy does this, and this. I think he's wrong and that he should do this, and this instead. Or I recommend that he at least stop doing this, and this. And, like, this is why people don't like him, and this is why he's losing his subscribers. I mean, it's me theorizing and talking about why these guys seem to be losing a lot of their support. And, like, my thing is that eventually, if I got more popular, that basically, at some point, it would be me and the other guys just taking shots at each other. Like, I make a video criticizing them, and then they make a video debunking it, and then I make a video, like, pointing out that their video didn't actually debunk anything, and then they make a video, and then I make a video, and then it's just firing back and forth, and there's no actual conversation going on there. And again, the people I criticize, I legitimately think have some kind of, like, mental health issue going on. And at some point, even though I have way less subscribers by several orders of magnitude, it feels like I'm just bullying somebody at this point. Now again, punching up can get me more attention, which I do kind of want attention. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I want to get more subscribers. I mean, obviously, I want more people to hear my voice, and I want more people to like give their points of view, and then like help shape my philosophy and my way of understanding the world. Point out things that I didn't think about. Help me expand my horizons. I want a big audience that helps me become more intelligent. Help me become more open-minded. Help me like understand how the world works better. I don't want an audience that's just sycophants who would just reinforce everything I say. I want to be able to have a healthy discussion with like-minded individuals. And if we are all like criticizing people on the other side, I mean, that helps, but at some point there are going to be a lot of people like, oh, you have like 100,000 subscribers or something like that. If I ever got to like 100,000 subscribers, they'd be like, oh, this guy's got 100,000 subscribers. That must mean that everyone agrees with him, and that whatever he say is gospel, and like I should just take everything at his word for it, and I should add nothing to the conversation. I should just tell this guy that he is right about everything, and then they'll unintentionally be trying to feed into my ego, and that'll cause me to become like, yeah, I am right all the time, right forever. Yeah, no, I don't want to be that kind of person. That's the kind of person that IDubbbz, that Pirate Software, and Dev have turned into. They have let their fame go to their head. This is one of the reasons, honestly. In comparison, this is why I like Asmongold, and even though I don't watch him that much, and PewDiePie. Because I never really watched PewDiePie. Like, I never got caught up in that whole thing with him. I got caught up in other people's channels, and I never developed like a parasocial relationship with any of these people. I've always wanted to like have collaborations with other people, but I never got full on obsessed with the creator. But like for PewDiePie, looking from the outside, I'm just like, I don't really care that much. But it's actually amazing that PewDiePie basically left the internet. He had a family. He moved to a place that he wanted to live, and he's just focusing on raising his kids, and he's totally happy. And he doesn't feel like he needs to get involved in politics. He doesn't feel like he needs to like influence the world. He entertained people. He got what he wanted. He became famous, and then he walked away from it. Which, that's incredible. He walked away from it knowing that he could have used that influence and that power to like try to change people's minds to whatever he believes, and he didn't do it. And Asmongold, he is very self-aware about like how dirty of an individual he is, how messy his house is. He has no qualms about like people making jokes about it. He knows that he's a slob, and he's not like totally happy about it. And he talks about how he had mental health issues in the past. And he just seems like a very down-to-earth guy, which I respect. Asmongold is like the exact opposite of like Pirate Software and like IDubbbz and Dev. I would say that comparison-wise, I would say he is definitely the most comparable to Pirate Software. Because Pirate Software really has like this narcissistic personality thing going on. Where Asmongold just doesn't like... He seems like he feels like he's blessed to have the audience that he does. Like, that's my impression that I get off of Asmongold. Again, I don't watch his stuff religiously, so maybe he's like more arrogant than I think he is, and that he is trying to use his influence to change people's minds and have them like try to make a difference in the world. But encouraging your audience to engage in a little bit of pushback against major corporations, I feel like that is an admirable goal, because he wants like the woke stuff to stop. So he's basically telling like people that they need to like go to their HR and complain about like diversity hiring and other like racist crap going on in the workplace. But yeah, I guess I just wanted to talk about those three individuals, IDubbbz, Pirate Software, and Dev again, and just like kind of like solidify my thoughts on it, and kind of like just point out my reservations on making that my whole thing. I mean, it got me a lot of views, I admit, but I don't think it would be healthy for me, socially, collaboration-wise, or anything like that. Because let's say, for example, I have criticisms of Razor Fist, but I don't want my audience to go after Razor Fist, because I know Razor Fist has his own issues, but I really respect the guy. So if I were to make a video like, here are my criticisms on Razor Fist, that could permanently destroy any chances I ever have to have a conversation with the guy. And I don't want to do that, because I believe that Razor Fist is doing a lot of good with what he does. And while I am concerned about the way he acts sometimes in relation to like how like he Razor Fist is not good at taking criticism. Let's just go with that. I don't want to get too deep into it, because again, I don't want to criticize the guy too much, because I understand completely where Razor Fist is coming from. And I feel like me attacking him when I agree with like 90% of what he's doing is basically like nitpicking at that point. Whereas I have a lot of issues with IDubbbz and Pirate Software and Dev. I agree with like less than 10% of what those three have to say. So I feel like they deserve criticism. Whereas someone like Razor Fist, I agree with most of what he's saying. And at that point, what I'm complaining about is, again, it sounds like a nitpick in my head. And I don't want to like ruin a potential like collaboration or relationship I had with the guy before I even meet him. With Dev, IDubbbz, and Pirate Software, I don't care. I don't want to associate with them. I don't want to collaborate with them. I don't even want to have a conversation with them, really. I don't want to have a back and forth with them, because I just think that we have nothing to agree on. I think that a lot of what they're doing is wrong. I should point out what they're doing is wrong. I should point out what they're saying is wrong, and point out like what I believe is right. So me burning those bridges, I do not care about. I don't care about burning those bridges. Do I hope those three turn their lives around and change their ways and become better people? Yeah. I just don't see it happening, because I just see so many faults with these guys. And again, I would love like them to have a healthy conversation with somebody on my side and try to come to an agreement. It's just me personally that if I talk to them, I don't think the conversation would go anywhere, and I wouldn't come anywhere close to changing their minds. Because I would be very critical of them, and they would take that as me being aggressive, and they wouldn't want to listen to anything I have to say. But yeah, anyways, I'm kind of going in circles at this point. I mean, I'm going to consider talking more about other creators, but I also want to be talking about news. I also want to be talking about philosophy. I also want to be talking about like how political philosophy, or like political ideology, and how it affects the world and how like people think. I want to be like, have a diverse set of talking points, not just Dick got bad, he do bad things. Please like and subscribe, because I say that Dick got bad. I'm oversimplifying it. I mean, again, these guys do need to be criticized. Their audience need to be reached, because a lot of their audience just blindly listen to these guys, and they don't have any other points of views that they go off of. And they need to hear somebody like criticize their heroes, because like, again, it is not healthy. A lot of the fans will have a parasocial relationship, or they just kind of like assume that a guy must be right because he has X amount of subscribers, and that's the completely wrong way to view things. Anyways, I'm going to leave it at that before I keep going in circles. And yeah, that's it. Bye, guys. Oh, and I'm going to talk more about Rob Reiner coming up and the situation with that. I just need more information on it. It's still a very messed up situation. I do have a little bit more information, but at this point, it would only be like 5 minutes of talking. So I need to know a little bit more, and the police are not saying anything. So again, leave it at there. Bye, guys.